So we're going to have an interesting section, right? It's a fireside chat. So joining us are going to be three leaders shaping the future of enterprise data. Vasu, the CEO and product architect at RightData, driving the vision, architect, and strategy behind DataMarket and DataTrust. I welcome you, Vasu. Thank you so much for joining us for this. Dev, our Chief Product Officer, steering innovation, customer value, and platform evaluation across the RightData platform. Dev, you need to run. Come on. That's a nice jog. Please. Yeah. All right. Rama Ryali, Head of Data, Platform Engineering, Compliance, Data Operations at McKinsey, an influencer, innovative data leader, over 3 decades of experience across multiple different domains for implementing scalable, governed, and trusted enterprise data ecosystem. Welcome. Please. All right. Thank you so much for guys to be here. Oh, sorry, this is a quick one. There we go. All right. So with your permission, I'm just going to take a little side back. All right. Okay. We'll start with you, Vasu. The idea of RD shift represents a fundamental rethink of how organizations handle data. In your view, what is the biggest macro shift happening in BFSI today?
It's kind of a continuation from my keynote speech. It's AI, right? Shifting from AI as a use case to AI as an implementation and a tool in the arsenal. That's the biggest shift.
Good one. If you had to define the future state of data in BFSI in one line, what's the headline?
Quality and control.
Nice one. All right.
You asked for one, but I gave two.
Two. Yeah, I'll note that. Dev, for years, BFSI organizations have invested heavily on data lake, data warehouse, catalog, and yet many still struggle to get business-ready data. From a strategic lens, how is the modern data ecosystem mindset fundamentally different from the traditional warehouse paradigm?
Hello. That's a tricky one, right? You are asking me a question where everybody is from BFSI. They might not like my answer. And then I've been working for Deutsche Bank and other bank as a vendor as well. So the way I see it is that the adoption becomes a problem. So at Deutsche Bank, we invested heavily on creating a large data lake by onboarding a huge team and spend years into a data lake, only to realize that a large amount of organization is still using their own silos databases, and they decided not to move for their own reasons, their own exceptions, their time crunches, and what all, right? And then even the data lake existed that did not serve the purpose to its extreme or to the need that we had. So this essentially becomes a problem of adoption, right? If you have data lake, that's not a silver bullet. You have to have data lake and you have to onboard yourself to it to consume it and create that multi-tenant architecture on top of it so that you have data lake, you have every data coming there that becomes the source of truth and all right in the books, right? But on the ground, you'll find out that risk and compliance decided not to onboard themselves, right? And that's something which is very, very common in all the banks, all the insurance industries. I mean, no offense, but insurance industry in India, they still would have data being sold in the gray market, but they will not do a data democratization essentially. So bringing data product into the picture solves that niche, right? Because the pain in moving the data from one place to another, make the copies of that essentially is a painful effort There is no budget being allocated to do that. When organizations have their own KRAs, KPIs to achieve, I'm talking about organizations within the organizations, that becomes extremely difficult for them to invest time into the farmhouses, the data lake houses, the data lakes of the world. They just want to focus on the business deliveries that they have. Yeah. When you create a data product, for them it's just a query. And if that is something which is more of a futuristic data product, they will love to create that because it is easy. I created 5 data products in like 6 minutes. Right? So what is the investment?
Yeah.
Right? So that's what it is. So I think the future is more federated than centralized.
Nice one. Yeah. How does this new thinking helps break the Dev again? How does this new thinking helps break the classic data supply chain bottleneck between business and IT?
Are you targeting me?
Yeah.
So I think the data lakes are not going to go anywhere, right? I mean, we ourselves are partnered with Databricks, and so data lakes needs to stay because they bring a large flavor of data control, organization policies on top of it. You can create the governance structure on top of it. It solves a larger portion. We are talking about 60% of the organization data and 40% of the organization which has been siloed together as a data product. So if I'm going to say that a data lake is history, stay silo and silo is the future, that's not true. It is going to be hybrid, right? I mean, a work from home versus coming to office, I mean, nothing is going to be fruitful, right? It's going to be always hybrid. So that's where it is.
Got it. All right, Rama. You have designed, governed, and operated data platforms across highly regulated sectors over 30 plus years. From your perspective, why are self-service, discoverable, trusted data ecosystems becoming essential in 2025 and beyond?
First of all, good evening, and my apologies for me wearing a hat. I'm coming from Tirupati 2 days back, and I've lost all my hair. Of course, I did the Mundan, right? So it's getting cold in the room here, so I just have to insulate myself. So firstly, my apologies for that, but it's a great question. I think the essence of democratization is necessary for speeding through the innovation and evolution of any organization, right? Especially in the US. I mean, my 31 years of working in the US, through many different roles, including being a CTO, the challenge is not organization having data. The challenge is organization taking data and making some meaningful sense out of it. Every company, big or small, they have the same challenge, right? So democratization, because most of the data teams, they're not as big. Like the organization I work now is about 65,000 people. It's the world's 9th largest organization from the overall market share standpoint. It's a Fortune 9 company. And of course, the data teams are not to the point where it's going to be able to scale up at the pace the business needs it, right? So in those scenarios, having the handful of people having the technical knowledge as well as the acumen to be able to make sense for the data is not the right thing. So I think having the essence of democratization, so more people have the common knowledge. So you're not going to the SMEs. There's probably 5 SMEs in the entire enterprise who understand the entire ecosystem end to end, right? If the same 5 SMEs have to be reached out by 60,000 or 100,000 people, you'll never get the answers you want. So I think having the common knowledge through democratization, having tools like what we just saw, RightData, I've been a client of them in the past, not now. I've seen the value proposition from it. So I think it's absolutely key, and I'm sure Vasu, you probably have a few things to add to that as well. I mean, so.
Yeah, more than adding to it, I actually wanted to ask you a question.
Yeah.
You talked about data democratization. We talked to BFSI people. They always worry about sharing data, right? I mean, democratization meaning there needs to have controls. So oftentimes governance and data democratization is seen as oxymorons, opposite to each other. How do you see that? I want to hear your perspective on that.
So I'll pick on my experience working at the 6th largest bank in the US. I was there for 2 years. I used to head the data management and analytics for the entire CIO organization, right? So a classic. In banks, things always happen slow. Slow in the sense because regulation. You just can't go at the pace you want. So I think the balance needs to definitely come from the high above. So they need to set the expectations. It could be a culture thing. It could be the necessity thing. But I think the fine balance of going at the pace and saying what information I can expose and what information I have to control because of variety of reasons, right? I think my experience says start always small. If you're doing it for the first time, take the one use case that is low risk, less critical to the organization, experiment, learn and evolve as you expand and grow into the bigger data sets. I don't know how else you would do it, because that's a great question, because one part of that says you got to go fast and the other part says you are regulated and controlled, so you have to be aware of what you're doing and how you're exposing the data. Because the risk from not having a proper governance model is way too expensive. Reputation risk, you can't put numbers on that, right?
Yeah, I'm going to repeat that. AI comes into play there. The fastness that you talked about, AI is going to bring in. AI is going to actually recommend all the policies that are necessary so that we can get that pace. At the same time, you have a governance, a democratization enabled. That's my perspective. And me being a vendor saying that.
Again, I am a big proponent of AI, but I think I'm also I'm a bit doubtful on how much AI can do it. But of course, if you don't get started, you're going to fall behind too, right? So I think that the mindset of experimentation should not go away. That has been my lessons of learning over the 31 years. You cannot fall too back. Otherwise, you won't exist. I used to work for one of the largest companies in the world. They used to be the 4th largest technology company. Probably many of you heard of them, Computer Associates. They don't exist today. Why? I'm sure they've done something not right, especially they didn't know how to expand and use the data that they had over the years. So I think it's all evolutionary, right? I mean, I see with my own company, McKesson, though it's the largest pharma distributor in the world, there's no second to it. We continue to evolve. It's always that curiosity mindset saying, okay, we've done this, but we know what the North Star looks like for us. How do we achieve it? And definitely AI is the enabler. You cannot completely not adopt into it. But again, that mindset of governance, of course, I've seen some great presentation as Dave was doing it. The trust in data, right? How does it come? Is more people understanding the common definition of data. And when you have AI that does the curation of the data for you and the human element engagement in it, it's always beneficial. I think it's how you adopt what makes you in par with the other financial organizations. I'm sure everybody wants to get on the bandwagon, right? I mean, you look at JP Morgan Chase, man, I mean, they're just doing great things. They didn't start big. They started small, but now when you see them, they probably are in the cutting edge of innovation from the AI standpoint, how they're taking AI to the next level within the banking sector.
Yeah. I'm going to go bold and say, adapt or peril. Yeah.
I mean, I'll have to agree to it, though I'm still pessimistic on the AI and what changes it's going to bring, but I agree. I mean, there is no choice. You have to learn and you got to move on.
Yeah, it's not if, it's when.
Okay, I'll take it. I'll take it. So you can submit.
Looks like you're going to keep going. So
you made my life easy.
He's going to submit
Can I take my seat back since these guys are busy?
No, this is really nice.
I'm sure you guys agree. I mean, I don't think neither he was right or nor I was wrong. I mean, it's just the mindset. So,
All right. Moving forward, Vasu, what architecture or leadership principles should guide the next generation of enterprise data ecosystems, especially for scale, trust, and frictionless consumption?
Yeah, really good question. There are definitely two broad perspectives, broad segments that we talked about. One is the leadership, the second is an architecture. I think both are super important from a leadership perspective. And it's not just for data, it's for any other initiatives and strategies, right? You need to actually let people experiment. You need to have a controlled experiments and then see if this is the right thing for me, and then scale it, right? So crawl, walk, run. Crawl, walk, run, but those needs to be shrunk. It can go into years, but it has to be more months, right? That's from a leadership perspective in terms of an adoption into this change. But as far as the architecture is concerned, specifically for data, and speaking to the BFSI leaders here, risk is important aspect to handle, and at the same time, ensuring unlocking the value out of the data is very important. So I'm sure you have heard of, they mentioned about the data lakes, and you probably heard of a data virtualization. There are tools that believe in a pure play virtualization, meaning let's not move the data, let's leave where it is. I'm going to query it at the runtime, I'm going to bring the data on fly, I'm going to show the results and analytics. That doesn't work either. So there is no right answer. There is not a one silver bullet of do I always move data and make multiple copies, or do I actually leave the data where it is and always on fly do the virtualization? There is not one right answer. There is no silver bullet. That's why we at RightData, we believe in giving option to the users is important. There are times virtualization works. There are times persistency, moving data is important. That basically, from an architecture perspective, those are the two things that I would look for. And you need to look for solutions that gives you a best of both worlds, and let a customer pick, let the business user pick, let the data engineer pick what is the right architecture.
Great answer. Thank you. All right, Dave, what organizational capabilities, behavior, or practices distinguish institutes that excel at discoverability, compliance, and true business adoption of data?
First of all, Vasu, you spoke about organizations who excel in virtualization, productization, and quality together are the future, because I think we saw a demo of one of such organization right just now. So just wanted to double color that one of my guys or few of my guys are into that task. Anyways, so your question, so I think organizations who are proactive, organizations who wants to go slow to go fast, organizations who are ready to experiment, organizations who are looking forward to a next or future generation, organizations who are open for small scale experiments. I think that is where, should I hold it here? Okay. So that is essentially are the organizations who are going to be successful in these journeys. Now think about it, right? We talk about data catalogs. We've been talking about data catalogs. I myself has made, this is my third data catalog that I'm making essentially. So there are been data catalogs, there are been governance tools since donkey's years, right? Why organizations onboard a data product or which is in the governance space or in the cataloging space, and they fail after 3 years? Because only the technology organization is adopting it. The business is still feeling good with spreadsheet. The business still thinks that, can I trust this data? How authentic this data is? What is the source of truth? We have tools which are for MDM, we have tools for governance, we have tools for democratization, we have tools for cataloging to solve that trust problem. But the trust problem is not getting solved because the adoption itself becomes such tedious in these organizations. The fear to get exposed, the fear to not put all my data, the fear of if I put my data and it will go into wrong hands, takes the organization's backseat. And I think the organizations who are going to come out of this cocoon and start seeing this as an opportunity, right? I mean, what am I going to do with my best suit if is that going to be always hanging in my wardrobe, right? I got to be wearing it. So please wear those suits, come out in the market. We'll take care of the governance side of it.
Nice one. Looks like you want to add something.
I just want to say something.
Yeah.
I mean, back to Dave. I think the data quality conundrum is such a common and I would use the word simple, because when you look at most of the issues that come from data, they are mostly like someone changed a data type on one of the upstream systems and you would never know it. And I have an example for that. So this goes back many years when we were completely digitizing one of these massive hospitality enterprises from a mainframe to a cloud, right? And one of the asks we got was, because I was heading the data architecture and the analytic team at that point. So my architects were looking at some requirements they got from the business. And the need was only simple. I mean, all they wanted was to expand the number of characters on a descriptive label on one of the applications, right? And they gave the architect team 4 hours to fix it. Yes, it could have taken 3 minutes to change the data model, but then deploy and everything, 4 hours was enough. But as we were analyzing it, we realized this change would break 200 applications. And the cost was immense, could take up to 6 months, right? And the issues that would come down to that is, of course, though the change was essential, a decision had to be made saying, we might have to compromise on this, we'll live with this, right? So I don't know, again, this is where I keep thinking, problems are simple, but the resolutions for data quality are always complex. I'm sure you heard about the 1, 10, and 100 rule, right? The cost to fix a problem in development is $1, but then when the cost is going into testing, it's about $10. By the time it reaches the customer, if the customer sees it, it's about $100.
And
right?
reputation.
Yeah, so, yeah. And the reputation, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, great one. So Rama, according to you, where do you see BFSI organizations struggling most as they move towards a market-driven model?
I think it's just the mindset. I think I'll pick on banking example. The challenges in banks, of course, insurance is not much different, is the regulation, right? So the speed of adoption is where the challenge is going to be. Because you're so regulated, you can't put yourself into a box and say, I got to get done in 6 months. It's an evolution. And I've seen that at Truist. It took about 3 years for us to establish the baseline for data governance, right, which includes Lineage, metadata management, data quality, change management. That's pretty big. Half the times, that's where half of the organizations fail because they don't have proper change management practices, either from making sure the people are comfortable adopting into the new model, or even the development teams making sure when changes are deployed, they're properly reviewed, they're properly vetted, they're properly communicated. That's where most of the fundamental issues are, and I'm sure these are not easy problems. So,
yeah,
I think they are easy. It's the intent. Right?
Oh, no. We'll take the intent for the moment.
Yeah. So Vasu, trust is no longer a back office function. It's now a core business differentiator. How should BFSI leaders rethink trust, transparency, validation, and compliance in a world of AI, distributed systems, and dynamic regulations?
All BFSI leaders very much resonate to this zero trust policy, right? You know, what is zero trust policy means you don't just simply believe that this data is right for you, you got to have controls around it. And these controls needs to be done at scale, and which is only possible with tools and platforms that are AI powered. And then I'm going to be pounding here because I have lived through this before starting this company. I have onboarded quite a few tools, quite a few products. And speaking of with some of my ex-colleagues working for large organizations, they also have onboarded quite a few number of metadata tools, cataloging tools, and all this. They quickly become shelfwares. Why? It's not because of they are technically not good. It is because the adoption and a time it takes to actually enrich, time it takes to classify, time it takes to actually make it operationalize. That's where the problem is. The next generation tools are the solution to it, which are use AI to build AI.
Yeah.
I think if it's okay, I really, agree on what Vasu just said, because I won't name the name of the organization. We built a product like this completely in-house. We invested about $10 million. No one wanted to use it because the amount of time it took to build it is one. Two, the trust factor didn't exist because the funding didn't come through when the funding needed to come through. So I think no matter how much we think about it, I think the organization culture is probably the biggest hurdle you're going to have. And I think my own experience using this product in a prior life certainly validates what Vasu just said, is I think the speed of adoption, because you probably have about 90 to 180 days to prove the point saying, let's say you as an organization, whether insurance or banking, you have to bring a change from how data management happens, right? You're probably given about 180 days from the point of getting the funding to the point of saying I'm complete executing it and I'm proven my point. That's not too much time, because the amount of change that needs to happen within the 180 days, because your stakeholdering is probably the biggest one, right? But then beyond that, the development cycles you have to go through, it's not practical. So I think a tool definitely is useful. I can certainly say that, from my own experience.
Yeah, one thing I do want to proudly say, you probably have seen the comments from Bala. One of the biggest aspect is how quickly that you can adapt. We as a product company, we're not somebody, we just push the product and then we wash our hands. We first time to value, because adoption is super important for us. We work with our customers to make sure they see the first time to value, and then they continue to scale. And that's what the testament that you already have seen from Bala. In the span of 4 months, we were able to catalog, enrich, we were able to do the whole 9 yards for all their legacy systems, including documentation, including recommending ER diagrams which do not exist for these legacy systems in the span of 4 months. We're so proud to say that.
Thank you, Vasu, for saying it. Guys, you are recording this, right?
All right. So Dev, when you look at organizations with mature data trust, how do they look like?
They look like our customers.
Good one. All right. So this question is going to be for all three of you. When you look at 2025 and beyond, what is one emerging trend in data that BFSI leaders simply cannot afford to ignore?
I think I would say, again, the adoption of AI is certainly going to be the big thing. Even though I am not 100% there yet, even in my own organization, we all talk about AI. But I think the key is you want to be successful because you're only given one chance. So I think the key thing I strongly believe is identifying that use case that gets you out of that pessimistic mindset, right? I would use the word pessimistic here. Because AI is great. It does phenomenal things. I talk to my kids. They're in college, they're working, and that's all they do every day, right? If my daughter has to do a presentation, the first thing she starts with, she feeds in everything. She starts with the chat GPT or something, a Copilot or something, and she gets a rough idea of what the problem statement is. She gives a good summary. I think the adoption is definitely going to happen. But I think it's the inhibition I have even though I have 31 years of experience, I still I'm like, this is great, but I don't know what. I think the data privacy and the data security is my biggest concern. Like, it's like human beings now, right? Once you teach someone to a human being, there's no button like go and erase it, go and delete it. It's there. So I think the recognition as leaders that data privacy is something that we have to take very seriously, I think that day has come. I think these agentic things and everything is great. And how is it possible that we ensure the data that we hold so dearly to because our enterprise is depending on it, right, is through having proper data governance, which is nothing but knowing your data in and out through it, whether it's lineage, whether it's cataloging, whether it's better data management. I think it's absolutely necessary, Aman.
Good one. Vasu, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would say data democratization with controls, right? So it's so important because we invest so much into bringing data, making sense of the data and all that. But oftentimes we are not unlocking the value out of data, right? So that's where the data democratization comes in, at the same time having enough controls so that it's not a wild, wild west.
Good one. Dave, what are last words on this?
I think my mic was switched off. So one is that data democratization, governance, quality, we've been talking about it all this while, right? Organizations are absolutely ready to adopt this, but there are fears, right? There is going to be internal, eternal learning that will come over a period of time. And I think the time has come. There are countries, and I would say countries for demographies. There are countries who are lacking in terms of the AI understanding. We belong to a country who are far more ahead in this maturity. Organizations in India are focused on bringing the time to market. They're smaller and smaller, making sure that there are right controls in place, democratization in place. I think there is nothing that can stop the industry in this region who are tech-savvy people that to take us to the next level. So democratization, very much. Governance, very much. Controls, very much. AI, very much. And in all of this together, I think makes a secret sauce for us to move forward and take this up to the next level. And I would rather put this to the audience, right? Anybody who would want to add any feedback or connect from here in terms of what your experiences are with data management or governance or the AI space, we would be happy to hear from you and understand. Because I think, we are the smartest planet of people in the planet, right? There's no offense to anybody else. So, yeah, we know it.
Yeah, that's right. The last question, right? This is all again for all three of you. If you had to describe RD Shift in one word, what would that word be?
Right shift.
Right, Rama?
Based on my experience, speed to market.
Very classic word, right data at the right time, deliver it to the right people.
Awesome. With this, we come to an end of the Fire Chat. Thank you so much, Vasu, Rama, and Dev, for joining me on the podium today, and it has been a privilege. Thank you so much. And with that, I'm going to invite Samir for a vote of thanks. Thank you. Hey, thank you so much, Rama. Thank you. Good one.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jimish, for hosting this exciting Fireside chat. Thanks, Rama, for your valuable inputs. I think it could be, I hope it is useful for you. This session has been useful. We are coming to the end of this session. On the entire behalf of RightData team, I appreciate and I have a big thank you to all of you for taking your time out, valuable time out to sort of with us in this evening. I have one small request. There is a small feedback form which will take up only a couple of minutes. I would request you to fill that form. And once you fill that form, we can, break for networking dinners. All our leaders are available during the networking sessions. And if you want to have a chat with us, we can obviously network and discuss with you guys if you have any specific objectives. If you want us to sort of engage with you guys at your locations, we are happy to do that. So put that in your feedback request form so that we can engage with you guys later on once we close this. Okay, so that's all from my end. And again, a big thank you to all of you.